Hey there, my fellow whiskey nerds. This is going to be a great video, so pull up a chair and get ready. These are two big ones. Love to taste these every year. I think you're going to like them. The two we've got for you today, we received our media samples for the 2019 Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. This year's the highest proof they've ever released. It's 105 proof. It's 11 years old. They only did about 120 of these barrels overall, so there's not going to be a ton of these on the market. It's always a little bit limited. And of course, they always have those great looking bottles. But we're going to taste this one for you today. And then the next one is we have the 13th edition of Parker's Heritage. Now, Parker's Heritage Collection is the limited edition from Heaven Hill. It is one of my favorites that comes out every year because it's different. I love the variation from batch to batch, and you don't know what it's going to be. One thing that people have been asking for a long time in this collection is rye whiskey, and sure enough, rye whiskey. Now, interestingly enough, this is an 8-year-old rye whiskey, which means it's 51% rye. I'm guessing it's right around there. It's right around probably Heaven Hill's standard rye mash bill. But on this one, they aged it 8 years and 9 months in heavy char barrels. Now, normally Heaven Hill uses about a number 3 char. A number 5 char is what they used on this one, and they charred for about an extra, I think, 50 minutes or something along those lines, or 50 seconds probably, actually. So this is a rye whiskey. It's also 105 proof. Now, the one issue I kind of have with that is that, I can go out and get 100 proof Rittenhouse rye right now that's 4 years old, as well as the Pikesville rye, which I think is 110 proof. So they already have something. They already have two rye whiskeys right in the same proof as this one. Kind of wish they had brought this one out barrel proof, but I haven't tasted it yet, so it might actually wind up being great. Maybe that heavy char added a lot of barrel tannins to it, but this one is non-chill filtered. I don't think they've specified with the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, but we're going to start with the Birthday Bourbon first. And I'm really excited to try this again. It's always just been one of my favorites. A lot of people kind of complain that they'll say the odd years are good or the even years are good, or that it used to be great and now it's not. But I think there's a little bit of revisionist history and people's memories aren't always perfect. It's always been pretty good. The only thing that's really changed for me on Birthday Bourbon is that Old Forester has gotten more creative over the last few years, and some of the newer things that they've brought out kind of step on the toes of this a little bit. It's no longer the only extra aged Old Forester because they have the President's Choice. It's not a particularly high one anymore now that they have the 1920 that comes out at 120 proof. But by and large, it is pretty select barrels that they pick. They're pretty good at picking them, and it doesn't usually break new ground for Old Forester, but what it does is give you a really, really, really good presentation of what their standard mash bill can be. So, and in many cases, it's the best. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. Again, I haven't tried this yet. In the glass, nice and dark brown. You can tell it's 11 years old. Oh, first thing out of the glass is bananas. Little bit of graham cracker, banana pudding, I really want to say on this one. Get a little black pepper, vanilla, banana bread, a lot of baked goods in this, which I think is very typical of a nicely aged Old Forester. You get a lot of kind of a pie crust and a brown sugar baked good type note on it, and I'm certainly getting it with this. Very nice. A little bit of fruit on there too. As I go back to it, I'm getting a little bit of red fruit. Maybe even a hint of an apple or a pear in there. Let's go on to the tasting because that's my favorite part. Wow, that banana pudding really carries through. That's pretty good, and it's probably the most unique of the birthday bourbons that I've had in quite some time. I tend to think the 1898 Bottled in Bond is kind of a poor man's birthday bourbon most years. This is a different flavor profile. It's really good. It's very different. Lots of the banana. It's got a good long finish. excellent mouthfeel. The viscosity of this is very nice and creamy. Yeah, I get a little bit of the barrel tannins on the back end. You can tell it's aged. Kudos to them for the 105 proof. This is a good proof for this whiskey. It sips very nicely at that. A little bit of corn, a lot of caramel and vanilla, but that banana flavor is just really good. I hope that as I leave the sample bottle here open for a little bit, that doesn't go away, because I really like this. I'm going to give that another taste. There's a couple of things in there that I want to identify before we move on to the rye. Get a little bit of a black pepper on the back end of this, rear of the palate. Nice and balanced. I get it front to back on the palate. It's nice and coating. Yeah, a little bit of cinnamon on the finish. On the palate itself, again, bananas overarching for me. Just the overwhelming flavor, that banana pudding, almost a banana bread, something along those lines. A lot of baked goods. On the rear of the palate, you start to get a little bit of a prickle of the spice. You can tell the rye content in this. Overall, this is really nice. This is my first impression. I don't give a score the first time I taste something. I always like to taste it over 2 or 3 days. So I won't give this one a score. But on my first impressions of this is that it might be my favorite birthday bourbon, at least since back in 2011, 12, some of those years where I thought it was fantastic. But I really like this. I'm definitely going to hunt a bottle of this. It's really worth it. Get yourself some of that. That is tasty. We're going to move on to the Parker's Heritage Heavy Char Rye. Now, I typically prefer bourbon. I prefer bourbon with a high rye mash bill for the most part. I do like a rye whiskey. Sometimes they lack in mouthfeel. They can be a little bit thin. They can be a little bit one-dimensional. Kentucky ryes are a little different because Kentucky ryes tend to have a low percentage of rye. When you think about Indiana rye from MGP, they use a 95% rye and 5% malted barley mash bill. In Kentucky, they tend to use around anywhere from 50 to 60%, maybe a little higher in rye, and then they use a significant amount of corn and then malted barley as well. So what you wind up getting is a almost like a bourbon take on rye whiskey, as opposed to what they make up in Indiana or in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, places like this. But I'm really interested in this because of the heavy char. Now, I do like Rittenhouse quite a bit, and I do like Pikeville, so there's certainly some big shoes to fill for Heaven Hill. Wow, I mean, right off the bat, you can smell the char and the oak. Burnt brown sugar and black pepper. Yeah, again, the barrel char is overarching, and this is super dark. I mean, as you might expect, very dark. Lots of black pepper. A little bit of brown sugar on that. You know, what I don't get is with a real high rye content, you often get a little bit of a citrus note in addition to that pepper. It tends to be kind of a sweet citrus. On this one, I'm not getting a lot of it. I'm going to guess that it's probably Heaven Hill Standard Rye Mash Bill, which means that it's not real high rye, over 50% obviously. But really, that heavy char is what you get on it. This is a barrel forward on the nose rye whiskey. There's a sweetness under it with brown sugar, maybe a little cinnamon. I'm going to pour just a little bit into the glass, but maybe a little cinnamon. Yeah, maybe a little cinnamon, but you get that barrel note, the char, the oak. And boy, is that dark. If you see this in person, I hope you can see it on the screen there. That is a dark whiskey, and that is pretty fucking... It reminds me of a George C. Stagg type of book. You don't find that every day. All right, let's go to the tasting. Wow. That's really interesting. When it starts out, to me, it strikes me as a... I think it's going to be a bourbon. I think it's going to be a double oak bourbon. and then it quickly becomes a rye. You get that kind of dark chocolate, cocoa, coffee note instantly. It hits the front of the palate. You get those that dark cocoa. You get a little bit of the coffee and the dark chocolate cocoa powder on the periphery and kind of coating the mouth. On the first taste there, the finish was very short. It's very abrupt. So let me try it again. Give it a couple of tastes here and see what we come up with. Yeah, this is it's very interesting. It's not at all what I expected. I don't really know what I expected. It goes from that chocolate on the front of the palate. You get, when it hits the mid palate, it starts to become more of a rye. You get a little bit of black pepper kind of overtaking the chocolate and sweetness, which does kind of linger on the tip of the tongue, but the mid palate does not. It gets typical rye flavors. It gets a little bit of, just a touch of citrus, a little bit of black pepper, and then the rear palate gets the barrel. That takes over quickly. It kind of chases that black pepper away real quickly, and you get that deep smokiness, and it carries on through a finish, which I would say at best is probably medium. This is a medium to short finish whiskey on first taste. Yeah, the rear palate gets barrel tannins. It's prickly on the tongue, very dry finish on it makes you want to pick up a jug of water and start chugging it. I wish I'd brought water with me. I'd like to taste this with a little water in it. But at 105 proof, it's probably, I'm going to guess it's best sipping the way it is right now. Very interesting. It's very different. I've never had a rye like this. I am getting a little citrus now as I come back to it. I'm getting a little bit of citrus on the nose, which I didn't get the first time. Kind of a lemony citrus, maybe even lemon zest. Not a real sweet citrus like you get on some of those 95% ryes, but it's in there. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a medium to short finish. I wish that were longer. And it's hard to explain with that much barrel char and at 8 years old. You would think you would get a lot of barrel tannins just lingering around, flavors developing on the back of the palate. You don't get a ton of that. And maybe it's just drinking it after this super viscous birthday bourbon. But I would call that at best a medium finish, probably short range of that. The flavors themselves, this is a really, really unique whiskey. I don't know what else to compare it to. It's not like the Knob Creek rye that's twice oaked or whatever that's called. It's nothing like that. It is a really, really smoky, barrel-forward rye that will trick you into thinking it's a bourbon the first half of your taste, and then it becomes a rye, and then it becomes kind of bourbon-y again. I like it. I still want to say that as far as Parker's Heritage goes, there's two releases that kind of blew me away. First one's Promise of Hope. That one, to me, they didn't do anything crazy with it, but what they did is they took traditional bourbon flavors and they showed you the perfect expression of it. It was just traditional bourbon flavors and bourbon notes executed perfectly. It's a great, great bourbon. My second one was the original batch wheat whiskey. That one is basically their Bernheim wheat whiskey, 51% wheat. And it was 13 years old, I think, and barrel proof. Phenomenal whiskey, just so different, so good, so sweet. This one, it's good. It's good. It's different, though, so I don't know how to really categorize it, because I feel like when I drink this, at first taste and on the back of the palate, it wants to be a bourbon, and maybe that should be just because the only really heavily charred, heavily oaked stuff I've had is bourbon. The mid palate, it's a rye. But I would probably say I definitely like the birthday bourbon better this year. It's fantastic. If I were rating it just based on today, it's easily in the low 90s, maybe a little bit higher than that. This one I would say is probably in the high 80s, and I doubt it would get much higher than that unless I come back to it tomorrow and the next day and cleanse my palate. So I won't give them official scores. This is just a first impression. Both are good. I definitely like the Birthday Bourbon, but just really nice whiskey. And of the two of them, if you're going to hunt one, go with Old Forester. But if you are a rye person and you want to taste something you've never had before in a rye, this is really interesting. I don't know that it's something I'm going to sit around and crave a sip of, but I think I'm probably going to hunt a bottle of this one as well because it is so different. It is so interesting. I think it's something that I need to have on the bar. So these are both solid offerings. Probably one of the better ones in a few years for the birthday bourbon. And just kudos to Heaven Hill for doing something outside the box. The super heavy char on this at 8 years old. I really like it. I'd be interested in trying this at barrel proof, and I'd be interested in adding some water to it a little bit later. I might try that as well. So, it's definitely something new. Not many people use a number 5 char, and especially Heaven Hill, who I have always said, if you read my reviews and if you look at my videos of anything that's Heaven Hill related, their stuff tends to be really barrel forward even at a young age. So the Elijah Craig 12 year was one of the really heavily oaked bourbons on the market before they took the age statement off. The 6-year Heaven Hill bottled in bond tasted like a 12-year-old whiskey that someone else would put out for me, 10 or 12-year-old. Everything they do, even their young stuff, tends to be very barrel forward. So they can put something out at 4, 5, 6 years old that people who really like a lot of oak bourbon can kind of gravitate toward. And this one is so different because not only is it a Heaven Hill product that is barrel forward, but it is heavy char barrel and it adds a load of like chocolate smoke to it, and I like it, and I like it a lot. I have one more taste because I have a little bit left in the glass, and God, I'm not but yeah, with the my only complaint about this really is a very short finish, a very dry short finish. I wish it lingered a little bit longer on the palate, just kind of developed a little bit more. But all in all, easily on first taste, high 80s, pushing easily into the 90s, maybe a little bit higher. This is one of the better whiskeys I've had this year. I'll taste them again over the next couple of days, and if anything significantly changes, I'll probably post something on the comments of the video and I'll post on our website. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check out our comments and I'll update it if necessary. And if you're at ModernThirst.com, it will be in the post itself, so you can scroll down. Speaking of that, check us out at ModernThirst.com. We have over 300 whiskeys reviewed. We've got writers spread across the country now who are just fantastic at what they do. I can't thank them. And if you like what we do, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/ModernThirst. As always, you can find us on Twitter at modern_thirst, and you can find us on Instagram at ModernThirst, and pretty much anywhere, any social media outlet. Check us out. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and have a great day. Cheers.